some information started showing up on YouTube over the weekend um, from internet sleuths who have figured out that the timeline is impossible for what Jada Pinkett Smith, I think it's Pinkett. This, I have a typo, or B with T has a typo, but one of us has a typo. Um, so, I've seen a couple of videos now indicating that it would be mathematically impossible for her story of visiting Tupac in Rikers, for the timeline doesn't add up.
Okay, you guys, so we know Jada is public enemy number one. She has a lot of people that feel some type of way about her, especially since she's been writing this book called Worthy. She's been doing a lot of interviews, sharing a lot of secrets, a lot of business between herself and Will, and a lot of business between herself and Tupac. Now, recently she came out and said that Tupac proposed to her while he was in jail. Take a look.
And so when he asked me to get married, he was at Rikers. And I knew at that time that, he needed somebody to do time with him, which I was going to do anyway. You didn't have to marry me to do time, right? I'm here. But he needed a rock. He needed, because of our friendship and because of everything we had been through together, he just wanted to feel that solidified foundation. Because I promise you, he would have married me and divorced me as soon as his ass left jail.
So now Lady is coming out and saying that Jada is flat out lying. She's claiming that she pieced together the timeline, that Jada claimed all this happened, and it just didn't make sense. Now I want you to watch her video, and I want you to let me know in the comments, who do you believe? Do you think Jada is being honest about Tupac proposing to her, or do you think she's lying?
I don't know, because maybe he was rethinking the other proposal. I have no idea. I don't know what kind of dude Tupac was. Whether he was kind of a womanizer and out there, like, making offers to multiple women. I don't know.
Go ahead and take a listen, but that's all I have for you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll talk to you later.
Jada's lying, and I have the timeline to prove it. And I'm literally in the middle of moving. That's why I look raggedy, but I cannot handle these fucking lies anymore. Jada is currently on her Pay Attention to Me tour, and she is making all these wild claims, including that Tupac proposed to her while he was at Rikers. Really? The math isn't mathing, so let's take a look. Tupac was convicted of sexual assault charges on February 8th, 1995. From there, he was sent to Rikers Prison, only to be transferred less than a month later to Clinton Correctional Facility. And she specifically said she went to see him. This was not on the phone.
When I go to see him in Rikers, probably one of the more painful parts, seeing him there, the condition that he was in, and having to leave him there.
Cool. So prior to going into Rikers, Tupac already had a girlfriend named Keisha. He proposed to Keisha, her words, in a September 2011 interview. He proposed to Keisha before he even went into prison. They were already engaged. They got married in April. And in the time that he got sentenced and was taken to prison, Keisha actually moved closer to be by him and be by the prison and saw him on a near daily basis.
When he asked me to get married, he was at Rikers.
So you're telling me that in the 3 to 4 week window that he was at Rikers, engaged to another woman who had moved closer to the prison and was there almost every day, Tupac proposed to Jada. But hey, Jess, you might be saying to yourself, Tupac wasn't known to be a one-woman man. He was no angel. Fair enough. Let's see where Jada was during February of 1995, which was, as we've already established, the only time she would have been able to see Tupac at Rikers since he was only there for less than a month. See, Jada had already met Will Smith in 1994 on the set of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, but Will Smith was married, and so nothing happened between them. But in February of 1995, Will Smith was served divorce papers by his wife. 5 days later, on February 19th, Will called Jada and said, "Are you single?" And she said, "Yep." Will said, "We're together now." Jada said, "Cool." And she immediately flew to LA. She flew so immediately that when he called her, she was in Maryland at a brand new house she bought. And she never spent a single night in her new house. That's how immediately she flew to LA. Jada, when in all that time did you visit Tupac at Rikers and get this fucking proposal? And for the record, Keisha and Tupac stayed married for about 10 months. They got their marriage annulled about 4 or 5 months after Tupac was released from prison. He was bailed out by Suge Knight. It wasn't long after that that he met Kidada Jones. Kidada Jones is the daughter of legendary Quincy Jones. Kidada looks a little recognizable. You may know her sister, Rashida Jones, who played Karen on The Office. Kidada and Tupac were living together and engaged when Tupac was shot and killed. Kidada was the one that was there with him at the hospital the night he died. Kidada was handed his bloody clothes. She was the one who told him, "We all love you," before he slipped into a coma and never woke up. Keisha spoke with Tupac several days before he died because even though their marriage was annulled, they still remained good friends. And I can't help but notice that all of the women who are actually part of his life in a meaningful way are the ones that have just kept quiet. They've kept silent. They've kept their memories to themselves and not tried to use a dead man as their limelight. And the person who's squawking about him the most is making claims that can't even be verified and don't make sense from the perspective of a verifiable timeline.
I see why we love you.
He needed a rock. Because of our friendship and because of everything we had been through together, he just wanted to feel that solidified foundation.
There's so many people in that position don't have support.
Right.
None at all.
None. You know?
And you got the best.
He did get the best, but not from Jada, because per Will Smith's own words, that him and Jada were pretty much humping all over the world. They were traveling constantly from the first 3 months they were together, all over the world. So Tupac did get some great support, I imagine, from his wife, who moved closer to be with him and visited him every day. And why do I care? Because I'm Gen X. And like any good Gen X person, I grew up on Tupac. We all remember this going down. We all remember where we were when we heard that Tupac got shot or that he died. We all had this fucking hat from Poetic Justice, walking around looking like newsies, slinging newspaper about the Great Depression and FDR. And we're all just sitting here watching Jada spout these lies, being like, do you think no one remembers? Because we all remember. Pepperidge Farm remembers, Jada.
You know,
That was a really, really...
yeah, see, this one is titled Jada Pinkett Smith. So I think that other person got the spelling wrong. That's interesting. Okay, so I'm going to pause it here for a second because there's an article that I thought I covered on my last video that I apparently just linked, but I didn't actually cover it. Okay, I linked this in the last video that I did about this couple, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith. And this is from a couple of years ago. Will Smith confirmed he and Jada Pinkett Smith have an open relationship and admitted she's never believed in a conventional marriage. A year on from that entanglement drama. So the entanglement drama, pardon me, is when she had Will Smith on her talk show, and they talked about there being an entanglement with another man. You know, to each their own. If it worked for them, obviously it didn't over time, but marriage for us can't be a prison, and I don't suggest our road for anybody. Okay? Will Smith has opened up about his and Jada Pinkett Smith's tumultuous marriage ahead of release of his upcoming self-titled memoir this November. This is a couple years ago, right? Let's look at the date. So this was September 28th, 2021. Because I did a live stream about this a couple years ago when it came out. And it's actually my highest viewed live stream, which surprised me greatly. But now it kind of makes sense. The Hollywood couple, who were married in 1997 and share 2 children, Jaden 23 and Willow 20, made headlines last July after they addressed rumors of infidelity during their marriage on Jada's candid talk show, Red Table Talk. So, if this was a couple years ago, Jaden's about 25 now, Willow's about 22, right? That's still potentially at the age where they might be in the home, but definitely not at the age where you have parental responsibilities, really. So there's some sort of emotional complication between this couple that they still haven't divorced yet. Yeah, that must have been the interview where she mentioned the entanglement. Now in an interview with GQ, as their latest cover star, the 53-year-old actor has addressed last year's discussion and offered further insight into the period of non-monogamy. I don't know why they're having such a complication with just saying it was an open marriage. Or, okay, so maybe it wasn't swingers. Like, they weren't, like, hooking up with other couples and trading spouses, right? But it was an open marriage if they were okay with seeing other people, right? Further insight into the period of non-monogamy in his and Jada's marriage. We're always playing. I don't know what that is. In the surprisingly candid exchange, Will confirmed to the interviewer that both he and Jada have a mutual agreement engaged in sexual relationships outside of the marriage. So they agreed to do this for whatever reasons. My guess would be so that they could both be in the home with their children, even despite the fact that they are now in a loveless marriage, right? That's my guess, is that they clearly had a rocky marriage, but they wanted to raise their kids together, you know? They didn't want to have to deal with, I get them on the weekends, or I get them on the summers, and, like, have to deal with the custody battle. But the kids are, like, in their mid-20s now. It's time to sever. The author noted that those who watched the Red Table Talk might have believed that Jada was the only one engaging in other sexual relationships, before adding that Will had delicately explained that this was not the case. While Will didn't elaborate on his sexual experiences outside of the marriage, he did admit that he'd felt guilt over considering infidelity in the early phase of their relationship due to his Christian upbringing. See, this is the thing. When you have different belief systems and you have one partner pressing for something that can cause a lot of emotional distress in your relationship, all kinds of crap can happen out of that. Because there's a sense of disloyalty. There's a sense of you're pressuring me to go out and find sex from other people. It's, makes me sad. He detailed his experience of speaking to an intimacy coach who helped him process his thoughts about having a harem of girlfriends, including fellow A-listers Misty Copeland and Halle Berry, despite being married. Gosh, there's so many ads in this article, you guys. I don't know where I saw it or some shit as a teenager, but the idea of traveling with 20 women that I loved and took care of and all of that, it seemed like a really great idea, Will explained. And then after we played it out a little bit, I was like, that would be horrific. That would be horrific. What the coach was doing was essentially cleaning out my mind, letting it be known, let it know it was okay to be me and be who I was. He said, it was okay to think Hallie is fine. It doesn't make me a bad person. This is like totally the opposite of what Jody Hildebrand did, which is good. I mean, because like you don't want your partner to feel like it's impossible to admire another person, but I don't think you want them to get to the point where they're actually like, sleeping with other people, especially if these are not even like loving relationships. These are just like hookups, right? But I guess that's what Jada wanted, right? Doesn't make me bad person that I'm married and I think Hallie is beautiful. Whereas in my mind, in my Christian upbringing, even my thoughts were sins. That was really the process that the coach worked me through to let me realize that my thoughts were not sins. And even acting on an impure thought didn't make me a piece of shit, he added. Will then detailed how, unlike that of his religiocentric upbringing, Jada had been raised in a more unconventional environment. What does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, that's the kind of sex talk you had at home when you were a kid. Really? I find that amazing. Yeah, sweetie. When you grow up, you can get married. You can go out and have affairs. It's all good, girlfriend. Which doesn't really jive with what she said about her mom kind of pressuring her to marry Will when she got pregnant. Because she said her mom was really old school, right? So I don't know. You know, the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, right? Jada never believed in conventional marriage. Jada had family members that had an unconventional relationship, Will revealed. So she grew up in a way that was very different than how I grew up. Okay, well, I don't know which family members. It definitely doesn't sound like it was her mom. Ugh, I hate it when it does stuff like that. I don't know if I got the whole article, you guys, but there were significant, endless discussions about what is relational perfection, he said. What is the perfect way to interact as a couple? And for the large part of our relationship, monogamy was what we chose, not thinking of monogamy as the only relational perfection. Depends on what kind of relationship you want to have with somebody. Like, do you want to have a loving marriage? Or do you just want to be partners in raising your children? Right? We have given each other trust and freedom with the belief that everybody has to find their own way, he added. And marriage for us can't be a prison. And I don't suggest our road for anybody, but the experiences that the freedoms that we've given one another and the unconditional support to me is the highest definition of love. Will also revealed that the pair had endured intense arguments for years, preceding their decision against monogamy, with things reaching a breaking point by Jada's 40th birthday in 2011. He recalled a fight between the two that ensued that night, which resulted in their daughter Willow, who was 10 at the time, begging them to stop. Oh, that's sad. You know, I used to fight with my ex-boyfriend, a lot. And it affected my son. But he never even got to the point where he came out and said stop. You know? Our marriage wasn't working, Will explained. We could no longer pretend. We were both miserable, and clearly something had to change. And Will went on to address last year's notable red table discussion. I had to wet my whistle. Which saw the pair at the center of public attention for months. If you missed it, the conversation, which took place in July 2020, involved the couple discussing an array of rumors around their marriage after singer August Alsina alleged he'd had a relationship with Jada with Will's permission in 2015. Okay. At the time, August alleged, I actually sat down with Will and had a conversation. Due to the transformation from their marriage to life partnership. So this information was already out there for a while, right? That they have spoken on several times, and not involving romanticism. He gave me his blessing. Some couples do this, you guys. Some couples decide to have life partnerships. They stay in their marriage, they raise their kids together, but they sleep in separate bedrooms, and they are no longer intimate. Like I said, this article is from 2 years ago. Before Jada addressed her relationship with August on Red Table Talk, she and Will revealed that they were actually separated indefinitely at the time. So why y'all acting surprised that, I mean, this information's been out there for like 2 years. And everybody's like, oh my God, she was cheating on him. You don't know the details of their relationship. But I think that the Tupac Shakur story is more interesting of why she lied about that. Other than potentially because his murderer was just arrested, right? So he's in the news, helps her sell a book, you know. So pushing out, I knew him, I dated him, I loved him, right? That helps her sell books, right? We decided that we were going to separate for a period of time, and you go figure out how to make yourself happy. I'll figure out how to make myself happy, Will said, detailing the reasoning behind their decision to split. Jada said that it was after separating from Will that she'd found herself in a different kind of entanglement with August, which she later clarified was, in fact, a romantic relationship. Okay? And while the pair denied August's claim about having received Will's blessing, Jada said she understood why he'd made that comment, but what August was probably trying to communicate, because I could actually see how he would perceive it as permission, because we were separated amicably. And I think he also wanted to make it clear that he's not a homewrecker, which he's not. Why is it jumping around the page like that? Will and Jada went on to explain that they ultimately reconciled their marriage, which led to the end of her relationship with August. I don't know how back and forth this goes, right? Well, in his interview with GQ, Will has now revealed his thoughts on the Red Table discussion, particularly in light of the amount of media attention it received. The public has a narrative that is impenetrable, he said. Once the public decides something, It's difficult to impossible to dislodge the pictures and ideas and perceptions. Didn't Jojo Siwa just try and use that argument? Okay. However, Will stood by his and Jada's decision to be open about their marital arrangements, despite the intense backlash and public scrutiny that they've faced. Okay, so they still have arrangements at this point. This is 2 years ago. They're like, oh, no, we're back together. Like, we were separated, but not anymore, right? Okay, did you go back into the same bedroom? Did you start becoming intimate again? It doesn't sound like it. Especially after you just did an interview, Jada, saying that you've been essentially separated from Will for 7 years. Sounds like they're trying to do some PR bullshit rather than be honest about what's happening here. The pursuit of truth is the only way to be happy in this lifetime. We sort of came to the agreement that authenticity was the release from the shackles of fame and public scrutiny, he said. Alright, so I guess there's an interview on GQ. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there because I missed it on the last video. I put the link up, but I missed it. I didn't read it.